Today is Monday, June 7th, 2021. It is 2:05, and I call this meeting to order. Fresh Waterways Advisory. Greg, can you go ahead and do the roll call, please?
Sure, yeah. We have Steve Borba, Phyllis Brown.
Here.
Me, Greg McKay, Grant Schaefer.
Here.
Joe Hubacek.
Here.
Pam Hewlin.
Here.
John Pike.
Here.
And Susan Canary.
Here.
And it looks like we have a few visitors. Next on, have Don Williams, David Lynn, and Doug Dorling. Are there any other visitors?
Yeah, in the room, we have Bob Rose,
Carol Rose.
Jim Golden.
Sorry, who was the last one? Who was the last one? Jim?
Golden.
All right. Thank you.
All right. And so online, do we have Nick Burke? And any other city? No? Okay. All right, so for all the visitors, welcome. Thank you for coming here to show your support for the Fresh Waterways. Just as a quick note, how we do the advisory board meeting is that there will be, during this meeting, there will be 2 times when we will ask the public to have any comment. Other than that, it will be just the board members who will have an open discussion, so please respect that. And I don't have any kind of time limit. When it comes to your time as the public to make a comment. If you have a question, we'll do our best to answer that. Okay, and if not, then I will make sure that we get back to you. Okay. All right. So first on our agenda, we have the approval of the minutes. So actually, in May we had 2 meetings. We had one on May 3rd, which was our regular Fresh Waterways Advisory Board meeting, and then we had one on May 12th, which was a special meeting that we had. So first, we'll cover the minutes for Monday, May 3rd, 2021. Those minutes were sent out to all members by Greg McKay. Do I have a motion to pass those minutes as written?
I motion to pass minutes as written.
Do I have a second? Thank you. And all those in favor say aye. Aye. Do I have any nays? Okay, thank you. Second is May 12, 2021, Fresh Waterways Advisory Board special meeting. And that meeting was held to consider 2 applicants for the Fresh Waterways Advisory Board, at which the members voted to have John Pike as the second member of the Fresh Waterways Advisory Board. So those minutes were sent out to all members by Greg McKay. Do I have a motion to accept those minutes as written? Thank you, Pam. Do I have a second? Thank you, Phyllis. And all those in favor say aye. Aye. Do I have any nay? Aye. Motion is passed. Thank you. Okay. So the first or the next topic on our agenda would be the city planner report. Nick, do you have anything from city planner, or is Mr. Reed online?
At this point in time, no, Mr. Reed is not online. And so I think the best thing to do is just say we have no city planner report at this time.
No city planner report. Okay.
Right.
Thank you, Nick. All right. So next week on our agenda, we have the Fresh Waterways Corporation. So, there have been members here who are also from the corporation. You want to do, have something that you want to talk about with the Fresh Waterways Corporation?
Just our work party.
Is there any work parties coming up, you know, or?
We have finished the area of the next canal between Pam and Lake.
We have to finish that.
Well, there's still
I
numerous.
mean, I.
What about that area? It's
Yeah, the dock. That's.
well, the guy that contacted.
Don't have that.
So, yeah, that one, you know, where all of these, you know, 6th Street in there.
Yep.
That gentleman is the guy who lives just north, literally that block right next to it. There's a property.
That journey is going to be.
Yeah, whatever you guys want to do.
There's a big pine tree on the north side of that too.
Yeah, that is, I have that gentleman's name.
Just okay, look at it, but now, good.
I slept all night long.
I'll tell you, when we go back with the car, all that brush, it looked like a beaver thing. How bad you're not doing well.
Well, so if you guys put one together, and John, you'll put it down.
Yeah.
Do we need to do a survey to see how many trees?
Well, yeah, I think you guys can survey it first. Oh, man.
Hey, Steve, can I interrupt for a second?
Yeah.
I am not getting anything anybody's saying. I don't know if it's the acoustics in the room or the microphone or what. I don't know if anybody else is experiencing that problem, but I am not getting anything except muffled sounds.
Okay, let's.
Okay, can you hear if I'm talking like this?
I can kind of make out what you're saying, but if anybody else in the room is talking, it's just way muffled for me. I think Susan was going to say something. Are you experiencing the same thing, Susan?
Yes, Greg, I am. It's very difficult to hear. It's quite garbled.
We don't like.
You don't what? One sec. Let's see.
You think that?
Can you hear me now?
That's much better, but there's a bit of an echo, so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, Sarah's working on that.
Okay, yeah, that sounds much better.
All right. So I'm in the meeting as well. I can close mine out. Okay, all right. All right, so, well, John, do you want to, who was the last one that was talking? I want to make sure that it works.
We were essentially talking about the large trees down in the,
Fisher Canal. Fish Hook Canal.
Fish Hook Canal,
Right.
and whether or not, hey, we need to do a survey on it to see if it's a job we can do, or whether or not we need it to help us out. So,
Can you hear John okay? Greg?
Not really. He's pretty muffled still. I think it's more of the room acoustics for him, but I'm not sure. You sound plain as day, but yeah.
I will just.
All right. Well, so also there's a couple other trees that are down just for awareness. Is you have the one in Blue Heron Bayou over there that's right at Greg's property. Then there's the other one that's down in the north canal of the Bell Canal system. That's more of a big bush, I think. But that still is a little bit of a navigation hindrance. And then, of course, we still have the Bass Canal entrance. There's still a lot of debris in there that we got to get out of there.
I know everybody's been getting out pretty easily. A lot of power boats coming through, 20-footers, stuff like that, without any problem.
Okay.
You're talking about just the ones that are coming in over.
Yeah, I'd get in there and get that stuff out so that, you know, they don't come down.
I think that can be taken out at any point.
Yeah.
But as far as accessibility, there's enough water back there until on August, and then it's not good. August it drops down quite a bit. Okay. I mean, if we got other things we got to do ahead of time, I think it's navigable right now. We get through there.
Okay.
If there's other stuff.
Well, next Saturday is rain,
Oh, fun.
so it's not gonna.
Okay. Well, so, but at the end of the day, if the corporation comes up with a working party, then you guys will just tell everybody, right? Or put it out, Facebook, all of that good stuff.
Yeah, as long as, you know, I think Greg's usually the one that calls them, and they give me, you know, ideally about a 3 or 4 day notice, and then I can put it out on Facebook and see about getting more volunteers. And, you know, we did Bass Canal, we had a group, and
Some of those people who were there are not on Facebook or social media. And I am compiling a list of phone numbers to give to you and Bruce so that you can contact these people who are not on social media.
okay, that's it. I can make like a group text sort of thing. And,
Okay. All right. Do you guys have anything else for the Fresh Waterways Corporation? No? Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay, so the next topic is going to be, this is old business. And the first one that we're talking about is under aquatic weeds, there's 2 subjects. Now, under this portion of aquatic weeds, we're not talking about the survey that was done. That has its own topic under new business. So the first topic under aquatic weeds in old businesses is we've been hashing out for, well, I don't know, the last 2 years about harvesting and what can be harvested and what's the capabilities of harvesting. And I've kept that on as old business because I don't want to let that go. I want us to, I think we should try to harvest what we can when we can. And so I just kind of wanted to hear what everybody, now that we're all in person, I wanted, you know, that we could have an open discussion about that. And where do we feel would be the best ways of harvesting? And at what point do we do harvest and on what weeds? Because I know what we've talked about is that it just is, you know, almost insurmountable for us to do any kind of harvesting of things like the elodea, the milfoil, the parrot feather, those things. But maybe something that we can take on board much more in early spring, late winter is the pennywort, to try to get that out. But again, we all know how heavy that is and those types of things. So how does everybody, open for discussion? How do you guys feel about that? What are your opinions?
Well, to harvest, you have to pull it out of the water. And to get it out of the water, you have to have water access points. And currently, we don't have sufficient water access points to make it feasible to pull containers or whatever of weeds to get it out of the water. That's the way to get the nutrients out of the system. And poisoning them, it kills them, but the nutrients are still sitting there on the bottom. And so we just look at next year doing the same thing over again. Right. And so the next thing is harvesting. If you harvest, you can't harvest the whole system because it's just too big. And the best you can think of as harvesting is keeping canals navigation open. Because some things get just choked shut. And the only thing that'll open them up is a harvester to go through and just cut a path through it. And because even poisoning it, it dies down, but it comes right back after better months or so. But in the traditional harvester, many times the cycle of the harvester is not very efficient. It costs you a fortune to buy it and operate it. And typically you have to cut, and they typically bring it on board, and then this thing has to shut down, go ashore, offload, and then transit back to where it started, and then start again. And with the old harvester that we developed, it works continuously. And you just have to take the bags, tow them ashore, get them out of the water, but you have to have the access points. And it works pretty good, but it's got some design weak areas that needs to be developed and fixed, and then it would be good for navigation. And we got much less money in it than even buying a traditional harvester. And it could eat holes through choked areas like North Bass Canal or Bell System entrance or many areas. It'll even eat a pennywort. And so.
What about water lilies?
Water lilies?
Yeah.
Has to be, it's hard to get water lilies because they're so close to the beach. And the harvester can be adjusted for depth, but it needs to go down, probably a couple feet. It could down 5 or 2 feet or so, down to about 6, 7 feet. And it'll operate and be able to be adjusted for those depths. But anything right attached to the shore is difficult to attack.
Well, so, because you were talking about the pennywort, and the pennywort, at least what we experience right now, most of it is pretty close to the shore. So that's something where you can just pull it out and then.
Yeah, it starts shore and then grows out into the water.
Right.
And in a case like that, you basically have to pull it off the shore or break it at the shore, pull it out. Once it's out, away from the shore, the harvester can pick it up.
Probably when you start pulling on it, you'll start pulling away from the shore. The paddle, right? It's got the paddle that pulls it into the net.
Yeah, once you pull it out, it's floating, and then the cutters will cut a section, an 8-foot wide section of it, and they'll suck it in and put it in the net bag. And then what it doesn't get, you just turn around and come back and get it on the next pass. This works pretty good.
So
Yeah, we did over 100 bags. These bags are like 6 foot diameter, about 12 foot long. And then we haul them ashore, pull them out on a special boat trailer flatbed, and then pull them up to the road and offload them and roll them up, take it back out to the boat.
So how long? I'm trying to, excuse me, like Grand Canal. If you did a mile of Grand Canal, what kind of man hours are you looking at? Say for just a mile, pulling it out from shore and taking the harvester through it.
Oh, let's see. It takes a man, probably 2 men on a harvester. It's designed for 1-man operation. That runs continuous. And the only time you stop is to switch bags. And under the deck, there's like about 6 backup bags. And so all you do is close one bag up, cut it free, and hook on another bag. And you just keep working. And then the people with a small boat, like a 12, 14 foot aluminum boat, all it takes to pull this thing to the shore access point. And from there, it can be winched onto a flatbed boat trailer and then taken out to the road or the airport and dumped at the airport. And so
what I'm asking is that you say you're going to do a mile in Grand Canal, so you're going to need people out there pulling it out into the main canal for the harvester to get round docks, et cetera, so how many people would it take and how many hours to do a mile? You know, you got 2 on the boat or the harvester, you got somebody shuffling back and forth pulling bags, but then you also need people on either one of the work boats or another boat pulling it out into the canal.
well, I would say, I would not do that because we're here to manage the weeds and keep the navigation open. We're not.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about pulling it in as we.
Yeah, the thing is to get enough clearance in the deeper water so the boats can get through without plugging up their engines. And so if the harvester, it can get into within a couple feet of water and it will cut. If we get all 3 cutters working, it will cut off the weeds, both from the bottom and from the side. And it'll just take an 8 foot wide path and just suck it in and put it in the bag. You don't have to have people pulling out.
Yeah, no, I thought we were talking about, you know, all the way up to the bank and.
No.
Well, I think that was when we were talking about the penny board and stuff.
Yeah, okay.
Well, but so one of the big things that I feel on the harvesting is we have to look at, well, the harvesting machine is owned by the Fresh Waterways Corporation, right? So it's not a city asset, it's a corporation asset. And which means that who would do it is, it's not the city who would do it. It would have to be the corporation and volunteers. Yeah. And so this is where my concern always has been, is that the reliance on volunteers to do this. And so when it comes to harvesting, I think it's a great idea for us to do what we can. But when we're talking about the folks who do the volunteer work, I think we really need to be very pragmatic with that and go, well, who's the constant in the volunteers? And what I've seen over the last 2 years is who the constant is is outside of myself, who I'm not a senior citizen yet, even though some folks think I am, but I'm not. I got rid of some of my gray hair, by the way. And there's two other people who, one who's 48, the other one who's same age as myself. And other than that, we're talking about people who are much older than that, right? And, you know, with full respect here. So I find it difficult for harvesting to be a long range plan when we're relying on people who may not be able to do that in the long range scope, right?
Yeah, because everyone that's worked as volunteer, I'm one of the last one of the originals.
Yes.
And my body is, even from last year to this year, don't have the strength or the stamina. And so the staff operate everything is.
That's right. That's right. But you're a great boat captain, by the way. keep it steady. I love that. Keeping it steady. It makes it so much easier. But I think that's something that I think we all need to think about, because moving forward, when we're talking about doing the harvesting, there might be some areas that we could do the harvesting. Right now, the pennywort is just absolutely, it's out of control. It's at its peak or getting close to its peak. It's very, very heavy. However, I know that we find that if we're working with the pennywort in the late winter and very, very early spring, that it's not as much and it's not as heavy, right? So, I mean, it seems to be a little more manageable. So when I was thinking about doing it, in my mind, it's hard for me to even have a serious conversation about using the harvesting machine for the weeds that grow from the bottom, the milfoil, elodea, parrot feather, whatever Doug or surveyed out there, all of those weeds. That's just, in my opinion, just absolute craziness. Not just Graham, but also I've had very long discussions with Bob Rhodes about it as well. And I mean, I hear the amount of work that seriously goes into this. And I think, again, that we just, as a board, we should be very pragmatic about that. And when we're talking about our recommendation to the city, I think we need to figure out how to present that to them so that they really understand the amount of work that goes into this. And it's not just a matter of, well, let's get 3 or 4 volunteers and go out there and start harvesting the canals, because it is nowhere near that easy. So what are you gonna say, Pam? What are you gonna say? No. Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Because we talked about it in a meeting.
Yes.
When we were talking about deciding which company we want to use to take care of our weeds.
Yes.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought Nick was going to get a hold of the other company and find out what it would cost to do some harvesting.
Yeah, he did say that. Nick?
And did we ever do that? I mean,
And also the cost of a machine to buy one for the city.
I know how much they are, $36,000.
Well, they may be more expensive than what we have in this, but as it's been stated, that the corporation owns this, the city doesn't own it. And so I'm not sure if city employees would be willing to go out there and step on a non-city owned vessel.
Mm-hmm. So Nick, do you have, you want to talk at this point about, did you hear what Joe said about that other company? I can't remember what yeah.
So
about the actual harvesting of it.
Yeah, we actually had talked about that last year. And so, from a general scope standpoint, we didn't scope out the entire system. We just said, hey, from a ballpark standpoint, how much would it be to have your equipment and your stuff out here for a week, and be doing work during that time period? And that, I want to say, was about $12,000 to $15,000. I'd have to go back and double check the numbers. I know I've brought that number up a couple of different times. And to add to the concept of city employees being out there on non-city equipment, that's something I'm not overly thrilled about. We might be able to find a way to work through that. In looking at acquiring new equipment or used equipment, looking online at a couple of different harvesters, during this discussion, it looked like smaller ones, can be purchased for, roughly, 70, 80,000, plus tax on top of that. And then the bigger ones, you're probably looking at about 200,000 with tax on top of that. So definitely something to think about for the future.
Right. Well, it's not just about buying the equipment, right? I mean, it's about city employees would have to be trained on it. You'd have to obviously figure out how, how your employees would, how often they could go out and all of that. Then you have just the maintenance of the gear. So, again, I think we should definitely have, as a board, I think we should really kind of keep this topic going, and we should be figuring out a good recommendation to the city as we move forward with this, because I think maybe that might be a good way in the future to move forward with this is what can be done with the harvesting and at what price, what makes sense and all of that. And then, I think having a good discussion with city about that. Also council members, right? Yes, Pam.
We were talking a little bit earlier about how to understand the work involved with harvesting this stuff. There's a couple of possibilities, maybe. One might be that instead of making a promotional video, maybe make an actual video of what is involved to show them at one of the council meetings. I mean, even to the point that we had to weigh a batch of penny work so they could understand how heavy it was. Or the other option would be, which I know is impossible, have them actually come work on the one part.
That's not impossible.
That's not.
They can stagger it or whatever, but have them actually come up, physically be involved in this so they get an understanding, because you can tell them what you want unless you get hands-on.
Oh, absolutely. And get all the wonderful muck all over
just
you.
as filthy as we do.
Yeah.
And tired and achy and hobble around for the next week because our backs around.
It's not easy. And I know that we haven't, well, at least the working parties that I've been involved in, we haven't gone out with the intent of harvesting just pennywort. But I know when we've gone out to do other things, whether it's to get debris from the waterways or whatever it might be, orchard, where we've taken pennywort, we've gotten pennywort out of the water. And then of course, just by, what my wife and I, when we try to clean up, if there's ridiculous, crazy pennywort floating by our property, and I know, Pam does that as well. That is some serious backbreaking work, just to get little swaths of it out of the water. So
maybe just have a pennywort party and city council's involved is volunteered to be part of it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So so it's $12,000 to $15,000 for 1 week worth of
from that particular, and that was when they talking with them a year ago.
And we don't know how much work he can get done in a week. We don't really know.
No.
And we don't know what he would be harvesting within that week period. Would it be pennywort? Would it be pear feather? What would it be?
Yeah. And then I'm sure they'd have to come out and do a survey in order to give us a serious estimate, right? So,
and I agree. I think we need to find a way to move away from this stuff and do. And I'm not saying that we're going to get rid of it completely, but move away from some of it and try and harvest as much as we can. I don't like that. That's my opinion.
But we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Yeah.
To give you an example, pick an area of the lake. Just pick it. Anywhere.
North Bay Park.
Where?
North Bay Park area.
North Bay Park. Okay. That's an easy area. For a traditional harvester, they would launch probably at North Bay, and they would go from there south because they can't go north because of the bridge. Well, that's like that part of the lake is forgotten.
That's why it's so bad.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah.
But that lake is deeper, which helps a little bit with weed growth.
And so you only run the perimeter of the lake. That's the only place there's a problem. Okay, so the harvester would typically go down and it would cut and it would convey up onto the barge all the weeds that you're after. And then you would probably be down into the north end of the southern part of the lake, and you'd have a full boat. So now you have to go back to the original point, and they are not fast. They go about 5, at most maybe 10 miles an hour to offload. And then after you offload, then you have to drive back to where you stopped and then start up again. Okay. And so it gives you an idea of the work cycle. They're very inefficient, and because of the conveying system, lots of times they're thrashing and they're seeding as much as they're collecting.
So how heavy are one of those bags filled full of weed? I mean, is it something where 3 or 4 guys can pull it up onto the boat? Pull it up onto the 2 that
we don't pull anything on a boat. We don't lift it at all.
You just drag it back.
Not till it's on a shore. It is sucked in with an apron with 3 cutters. It's cut. It's elevated with air bubbles, and it's sucked in and is shoved into a net bag. When that net bag, it's about 6 foot diameter, about 12 feet long or so. When it's full, I mean, it's an unbelievable amount of weeds. And you tie it off, you push it off, you put another bag on it, and you keep cutting. And Bob will testify that in the mouth and bell system, we had so many weeds that we turned off the engines, and we were just pulling the weeds in. And the small boats would just take in the bags and take them to where we had an access point.
I mean, that would be the way to do it, is to have other boats haul bags off.
That's just the point. Any volunteers, a little 12-foot boat can pull them.
Well, the reason why I brought up about how heavy they are,
yep,
is because what I was wondering is if you were cutting with your harvester,
yep,
and you had the barge behind it, you could pull a bag on the barge and haul somewhere. I just don't know how heavy the bags are once they're full. Are they like 1,000 pounds?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so there's too heavy for 4 or 5 guys to hook on and drag up onto the deck of the barge.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So
they gotta be drugged.
The other interesting point was with bridges, would you be able to take a harvester, say a Bass Canal, your Bass Avenue bridge, and how about north end of Grand Canal under the golf cart bridge?
You can get under that bridge and the crossover canal because there's pontoon boats come through there all the time.
They have to take off
these cutters are about 6 to 8 feet high on the sides. And so
they're kind of lifted up like so if you're traveling.
So you lift it up when you're traveling,
Gotcha. Then
you have these up in the air. And if they're down, then you're 8 feet down in the ground,
Gotcha.
under the water. And so for the north end of Duck Lake, you'd have to use that access point that's on the east side of the north end of the lake. It's only a little dirt access point.
Right, okay.
So Grant, how many bags do we have?
How many what bags? Oh, we must have about a neighborhood of 7 bags, 7, 8 bags.
So by the time you cut those 7 or 8 bags and haul them back, you're done for the day, because then you have to wait for the city to come with some sort of machine to pick them up. So that's all you can do in a day then,
Oh, we can do more than that.
if they get emptied.
Oh, the way it works is you stuff the bags, any boat can pull it to an access point. Okay, at the access point, you have a trailer that's got a special Teflon flatbed with a ramp. And it's got a power winch on it, and you pull it out slowly. Okay, and you pull it out, and as you pull it out, water drains off. Okay, so once it's on the flatbed, then the Jeep or whatever takes it out to the road. And what they do is they unzip it. The bag is unzipped, and then they pull it sideways and they roll it off on the side of the trailer on the road. And so there's unlimited amount of berm on the road to use. So that's not a limitation. And so after they empty it, they fold it back up, they sew it back together, they roll it up, and they go back down to the water, and they wait for the next bag to come in. And the one that's been used and rolled up, they put back on a boat, take it back out to the harvester.
You're talking about a large workforce.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dumping that,
The hardest
taking that
work-
bag
That's a lot.
And then resewing it, folding it back down. That's a lot of work.
Well, talk to Bob, he's done it. He knows how much work it is, what it's like.
Okay, all right. Well, definitely,
Definitely a conversation. I think we need to continue. Does everybody agree we need to
Yeah.
continue talking about this to think about the feasibility
something.
and do that? So, Grant, thank you very much. That was actually, I even learned a little more than what I thought I knew. So,
A huge harvester typically runs about 150 grand. And then thrashes a lot of stuff all over, reseason.
Well, you get them less than that. I've already been watching online.
And we've got about $30-some thousand in this one. And it worked wonderfully the year we used it. We got over 100 bags of weeds we pulled out of the lake.
okay, all right. Well, just for the sake of time, I'm gonna go ahead and we're gonna just keep on moving. But great conversation, and everybody agrees we should continue having this conversation. Yes.
Last thing we talked about with the harvester is the gearbox was not working right. Is that still the case?
So that's one of the weak spots is that gearbox. We need to have a better designed gearbox. We need to have someone who can get a crank and a connecting rod that is easily serviceable and very reliable. It's just a little box, smaller than a shoebox. It's got a hydraulic motor on the end, and it's got 2 little rods go back and forth.
Right.
These are double shears. It's just not one oscillating shear. It's double. So there's not the vibration, and there's it needs less throw. And so, but you need to be able to service that, but you need to like a crank that's like a 2-cylinder BMW engine that they're opposed, and so you get the little connecting rods that have little zerk fittings. You can lubricate every now and then.
But it's not working right now, that gearbox. Is it working or is it not working?
Oh, it's torn apart.
Okay.
Okay.
I would say it's not.
Not working condition.
That's what I was trying to get.
Gotcha. Okay, all right. So I'll keep it on there and we will continue to talk about this. All right, so the next that we have as old business under aquatic weeds is water testing. And actually what I wanted to talk about at this particular time was that Joe has made contact with the Grays Harbor Stream team. So if you wanted to just tell us what you learned about that, and then we'll talk about the way forward if we think we should do that.
Okay. Her name is Alexa Brown, and she's a kind of a water biologist. So that's what she does for a living for Washington State as well as privately. She does that for herself privately. But she is also involved. She gets grants and stuff to help people out with water quality. And she's interested in wanting to help us and might be able to get us some grants to pay for that. So it just kind of, I just want to hear her out. I mean, I want to hear more from her about what she can do, but she's very qualified. When she's done, we'll know exactly where we're at with our water, where our oxygen is at, where our pH levels are at, how she does it, where she tests. I mean, we can all talk about that. I don't know exactly. I just know that she has all the equipment that's all calibrated to do that. So it's all been certified. But I think it's worth hearing more about what you can do and what if there are costs involved, and get an idea where we're at today on our water condition. I have some concerns about it, and I would like to find out. I think it would be a good idea.
And she understands how vast our waterways are.
Yes, she knows all about this area.
Has she ever happened? Has she been out here? Has she been out?
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, they've been out here before. Okay. Not doing any water testing, but they've been here before. Yeah, they're familiar with that area.
We have to just be sure that when she's testing, that she tests it at the same sites that the corporation has pre-release tested. Otherwise, we're not going to get an accurate comparison.
Yeah, that's what I want to talk to her more about. I don't know how that's done.
They put a lot of work into those tests.
So what I had asked Joe to do, because I know Joe really, I mean, we're all concerned about the water quality and what, you know, how that's affecting everything, right? So Joe at our last meeting talked about the Grays Harbor Stream team, and I have not had an opportunity to talk to Alexa, but what I wanted Joe to do was to kind of delve into that a little bit, find out what are they all about, and would they even be interested in coming out here and helping us. So he's done that, but I didn't want to do that unless the entire board felt that that would be a good way forward. Because here's the thing, we would be inviting, you know, Fish and Wildlife, that's one thing, right? You know, I mean, they're a government entity, but this is a nonprofit. I really don't know what they're all about unless I actually sat down and talked with her. So I'm also concerned about opening up floodgates just to have folks come in under the advisory board asking them to come out and do that. So I really wanted to hear what all the other members had to say about that.
Well, I had contact with them right after I started the Facebook page with the corporation. They popped up one time way back, and I follow them on Facebook now. I have not, you know, spoke with anybody there for a year. But they actually, I'm impressed. They started out with a very small group of volunteers, and now they seem to be expanding. And at one point, when I started the corporation Facebook page, I kind of hoped at some point we could merge and start working together with the corporation. That's all I got to say.
Oh, okay. Thank you, John. Okay. All right. So, hey, Greg, do you have anything to add on that?
No, I don't.
Okay, all right. Anybody else here in the room? What are your thoughts about that? Phyllis? Well, I mean, you and Bruce, Lisa, and Bob have been doing it for so long.
We have been doing it for a long time. And I personally would like to talk to her because I want to know what equipment she's using.
Yeah.
John and I have talked about the equipment that we have, and it is older equipment. It is a pain to use, and I want to know is there's better equipment out there. It's not that our equipment is not accurate. It's just out of date.
Okay.
Hard to use. And I'm sure over the course of the time that the equipment was purchased and now has been a lot of improvements on it.
Right.
You know, I would love to have a conversation with her.
Okay.
Sure, that's what we talked about is the
As
manufacturer and any software upgrades to the database, and I think it's pretty archaic.
and you were going to do that. And you were going to do that.
Was I?
Yeah.
Better get the phone.
So
Take a note.
So I got the information from Bruce and Lisa, and I have not looked it up yet either.
Well, send me the information.
Okay.
Serial number, model number.
Yeah, Lisa sent me a picture.
Okay. Well, so if everybody's good, then what I'll do is actually I've been talking with her today, just via text and trying to come up with a good time to talk with her. But if everybody's good, what I could do is invite her to our next meeting. And we can, we'll put her so that she's at the top of the agenda so that she doesn't have to sit through our meeting like Doug Dorling is doing right now. Then we'll go from there. Yeah. Okay, so I'll go ahead and I'll do it. All right, yes. I'll contact her, right?
And when she comes, I mean, please bring her equipment.
She's on the field today, but she should be back in the office.
All right, like and so ask her to bring equipment, ask to bring equipment. Okay, and I'll see if she feels like coming and seeing us in person, you know.
Yeah.
That would be helpful.
For her, just because it's so far in here.
Okay, all right. Well,
so I think she's in Olympia.
I'll talk with her.
That's it.
Thanks. Okay, all right. So the next topic on our agenda would be the North End Grand Canal project. I know that I'm just going to keep it there, and I think everybody understands why, how important that project is. And not just is that project important to get done because, you know, to revitalize the North End Grand Canal project, but that project also, I think, will help us understand what we would be getting into in future projects for the rest of the waterways when we're talking about if there would be any kind of restoration done, any kind of demucking, all of those things, when we would have to deal with multiple entities on getting any kind of permit, things like that. This North End Grand Canal project, I think, just might be that that door, right? That once it's open, we can then figure out, okay, well, this is what we had to deal with in order to get this done or this done, and this is what we need to have done in the other part of the waterways. So there's already a lot of our money, our tax money, that has gone into paying for this project, the North End Grand Canal project. So I think how I look at it is I think we should see that through, and then again use that as a way to do other projects throughout the system.
I just have a question about the penny board at the North End.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really understand it, so I think way off. Does a lot or part of the penny board we have in the canals come from the drift to the North End?
Well,
drifting off of that north and breaking off and moving down.
Well, I can only tell you just what I observe, and what I observe is that, you know, being on the Grand Canal is you know, it goes with the wind, right? As the wind is moving that penny board, I can be out there at my dock and I can watch a big, huge swath of it go by that I took good photos of so I could show Joe. And then it came,
And
you know,
went
the wind
back.
shifted and then now it comes back. So where it originates, I really don't know. I mean, I've never seen any huge swaths of it come off of that disaster up there.
Yeah.
But I certainly know that there's large areas down the entire Grand Canal that, you know, as they're going out, they seem to kind of get cut off. Probably Mother Nature, the ducks, the geese, the otters, you know, whatever, right?
The little cove.
That's right. And then they kind of come out.
Probably got spread by boats and everything else, you know, pulling that stuff around.
Definitely
I was
could
just
be as
wondering.
well.
The prop, you know, and then you spread around from one side of the lake to the other.
Yeah, I was just curious if that was breaking off.
Okay.
We've even had big clumps on Lake Bernard.
Happening.
I mean, there's only one way in there, and it's like, you know, like, where did it come from?
Okay. All right. Greg, do you have anything to add on the North End Grand Canal?
No, I don't.
Okay, thanks. All right, so next we're gonna go ahead and move into the new business, and that is the aquatic weed survey and treatment plan. Doug, are you still online? Poor Doug. Is he online? Yeah. Doug, you gotta unmute if you're trying to talk.
Yeah, I do see that Doug is online still, but he's currently muted right now. Would you like to? Oh,
I think I'm back on.
All right, Doug. Okay, so we're ready to talk about your survey. If you want to go ahead and give us a synopsis of your survey and your suggested treatment plan.
Sure. You know, I wasn't really prepared to go in depth about the survey because I didn't know how, you know, what my involvement with this meeting was going to be. But anyway, you know, we came out, we surveyed Ocean Shores probably about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. And we did adopt a plan that gives the city a number of different options depending on budgetary restraints. I mean, there's a lot of work that can be done at Ocean Shores. It's just a matter of, you know, what the budget is in order to get a lot of these components done. What we did in our proposal is we did outline what we felt was top priority items. And then as the list got longer, those priorities were a little bit lessened. What we consider a top priority this year would be the northern part of the Grand Canal, north of the Bell Canals. We also would consider the Bell Canals a top priority this year. We also included Bass Canal as a priority area. We also included the Parrot Feather. And although it doesn't really impact a huge section of the entire waterway, it is potentially a pretty dangerous plant that you really need to get a hold on. We also have numerous options for pennywort control. In the conversations, and probably everybody understands this now, is that the Ocean Shores waterway system it's unique in the fact that it's large, but it's also extremely long. So on a normal lake, when you're talking about a 450 acre water body, you're not talking about 20 acres or 20 miles of shoreline. So the problem associated with the harvester is also associated when you're trying to spray a shoreline. Because basically you have to drive up the entire shoreline, and when you reach the end and you're done, you've got to drive all the way back again. So what we've done is we've broken it down into a daily fee of putting a boat out on Ocean Shores and spraying as much shoreline as we could in a day. But then we also put in proposals to treat very specific areas, such as the Bell Canals, such as Fishhook Canal and the Bass Canal. So there's a lot of different options involved, and you know, not knowing specifically what the budget is, it's hard for us to really sit down and develop a game plan at this point. So that's why we submitted this under the assumption that, you know, the Waterways Committee would look at it. The city would look at their budget and say, okay, these are the priority items that we feel need to be addressed. And then we would move on from there. But basically, again, the survey on a yearly basis is pretty much the same. The density of weeds changes on a year-to-year basis. Like this year, we didn't see very many weeds growing south of the Bell Canals. It's probably because that area of the lake was treated last year. Same thing with Fishhook Canal. We didn't treat Fishhook Canal last year for submerged weeds, but this year we're seeing more intense growth in Fishhook Canal. So there are areas of the canal system that aren't treated yearly, and there are some areas that are treated yearly, such as the Bell Canals and north of the Bell Canals. And so that's basically, roughly what we've done and what we've proposed to treat. We have developed a mailing list. Nick gave us a list of all the property owners that reside around the canals. So we have developed a mailing list, which is about 2,200 people, which we will use to notify the residents of when the treatment will occur. Last year, we had the Waterways Committee, post the shoreline physically. This year, we're going to mail everything out.
Okay, well, that's definitely helpful. So Doug, you also did, this is Steve. Okay. You also did the entire part of Duck Lake. It's Duck Lake proper, correct?
Correct. Yeah, I totally forgot about Duck Lake. We did survey Duck Lake. In Duck Lake there are not very many weeds growing at all in Duck Lake. There's a few sporadic patches here and there. But the main area that we thought that needed to be addressed was there is a canal that leads from, as you're leaving the boat launch down in the south basin of Duck Lake, and you're heading south, you go through, I think it's about a 30-acre impoundment, and then you go through a small canal, and then you enter another lake, which is the very far north end of Duck Lake. That canal needs to be maintained because right now we're seeing a considerable amount of cattail growth that's encroaching in onto the main canal area. We're seeing a considerable amount of floating plant control growth in that area of the canal, and we're also seeing some submerged weed control in there. I think if you leave it unchecked, eventually you're going to end up with a very, very, very small channel that only a very limited number of boats are going to be able to pass through. So that would be the priority for Duck Lake.
Okay.
And it's the canal that goes, under that bridge, that wooden bridge.
Yeah, Chancellor Lamar. How do you say that?
Chancellor.
Right, yeah. That's the one. That's the one.
Doug, this is Phyllis. This is just a FYI for you. On that area there, we actually had under the bridge, around that bridge,
right,
there was actually a volunteer person who went in there last year and manually cleared that.
Wow.
So this has just been within a year that you're looking at.
Wow. Well, that's an option if he's willing to go in there and put the effort forward again this year, and that would be an appropriate option to try and clear it out. Yeah. But it's not just the canal under the bridge, it's the area also leading to that bridge.
Right. Yeah. Yes, I've seen that. Can we also talk parrot feather for a moment?
Sure.
As you know, I don't know if you know, I live on Lake Menard, and I saw that parrot feather you're talking about last year. And to me, it has just gone crazy.
Yes, it
has. If we don't treat it, what is going to happen?
Well, parrot feather it's on the state noxious weed list. I believe probably about 7 or 8 years ago, the city of Ocean Shores did receive a grant from the Department of Ecology to treat it. So it is one of those weeds that is grantable. But from the explosion that we've seen on with the parrot feather just within that 1 year period of time, basically what's going to happen is it's just going to continue to head north. Prior to last year, it was mostly contained to that basin just before the cement bridge. There were a few patches north of the cement bridge, but this year we've seen it expand, down that one shoreline quite a bit. And so we don't, without any type of treatment or without any type of method to control, we just see it continually push on down that shoreline area, specifically when the water level drops. Because it just reroutes itself in all that mud and sediments that's once the sediment is exposed. And the ducks love it. They play in it, they break it loose.
And move it to other areas.
Excuse me?
And move it to other areas.
Oh yeah, and it floats. Yeah. It floats. So yeah, it's a fragmentation type of plant. So any fragment will reroute itself somewhere in the lake. So that's why we considered that area, parrot feather is one of a priority.
If you have questions that you want to ask Doug, so we could ask Doug questions now, so that way we can go ahead and get him off the line and we can do our discussion.
So that Chancellor area that we're talking about, that's where we're having a problem with, you're saying parrot feather?
No, in that area.
That's lily pads, isn't it?
Well, absolutely.
Yeah,
lily pads,
that's really shallow.
And there's pennywort.
Say that again, Doug.
There's cattails, there's lily pads, and there's some pennywort.
Yeah, there's probably some. I go through there with my bass boat all the time. That's why I know it's really shallow. I got to use my trolling motor to get through there.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So, I don't know if you're ever going to fix this. It's just so shallow. This stuff just grows. It's almost turning into dirt.
Oh yeah, I mean that's one of the issues. I mean, it is so shallow that any of the vegetation that dies is going to sink to the bottom, decompose, and basically turn to some type of organic sediment.
Right. It almost needs to be dredged out more than anything else.
Definitely.
Demucked. That's right. The terminology is demucked.
Yeah, demucked.
Do you have any other questions?
No, that's it.
Pam, do you have any questions for Doug? John, Grant? Okay, Doug. So this is Steve. We thank you very much for the presentation. If you need to go, you can go ahead and do so. We're just going to go ahead and start our discussions, but we've asked all the questions that we need to from you.
Okay. Well, I think I will depart.
All right. Thank you very much, Doug.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay. So, yeah, go ahead.
So we're talking about Chancellor and the bridge. And then going up into that northern part of the lake. Well, we went through there, Steve and Grant and I, a couple of weeks ago. Is that the same place?
I don't think so.
No.
Oh, okay. So
he's talking, yeah. We didn't go that far. We just went under the albatross.
Oh, that's right. Okay. My mistake. Yeah. Okay, my mistake.
Yeah, that's definitely a bad area. Greg and I went up there. It's a disaster. Okay, so thank you, John. So do you guys have, what do we want to discuss? I opened it up. What do you guys want to discuss about the survey? How do you
I do want to discuss it.
Okay, go ahead.
So one of the things that I brought up that I would like to see what the weeds were like. Okay, let's back up.
Mm-hmm.
When we had the Department of Fish and Wildlife here, I asked them, what do we need to have a successful lake with fish being able to repopulate and become a good fishing lake again? And I forget what his name was. I got it written somewhere. You need to have 60% weed growth in the lake in order for your lake to be recycled. Because the weeds recycle the water and allow it to clean up. If you look at Duck Lake, I bet you there ain't 10% weed growth in there.
But we haven't treated Duck Lake.
I know it. We've killed everything down to the dirt.
No.
There ain't nothing left in there. And why didn't it come back then?
Well,
probably the carp.
Grass carp.
Probably the carp is not helping either.
I mean, I still say that they are reproducing and they're not sterile anymore, but
I fished some of the best grass lakes in the Midwest there is. I never saw any of them near close 60% coverage.
I mean,
Everyone I've read says 60% coverage for a healthy lake. Now, are there lakes that probably less than that? Yeah.
You can't take a boat in it, you can't fish it, you can't, you know.
Yeah, you can't have water getting recycled without weeds to do it. That's what takes all of this, what's that called? Not bacteria. Stuff from poop and stuff like that turns into, get the name of it.
You're saying it filters the water.
And then the plants eat that and clean it up, and it cleans up the water. And I'm trying to remember the name of it.
well, you know what?
Phosphates.
Okay, so but where are you going with that?
So I guess the reason why I bring that up is because I don't see Duck Lake ever coming back unless we get some weeds in there again. Allow them to grow back in there again. Okay. And if it means getting rid of the grass, we got to get rid of them. Because they are still thousands of them in that Duck Lake.
Well, that's why we needed to catch one to send it to Fish and Wildlife to determine if it was the ones that they put in there or if someone else added grass carp to it.
Or if
they mutated and started.
Well, I'm waiting for a hatch in Bass Canal because we had hatches last year, but we don't have any this year. But I haven't had a single carp up Bass Canal.
Okay, but also sticking with what we're talking about here, we're talking about the survey and the treatment of the waterway. So, well, I mean, we can certainly talk about the grass carp, but that really is not what this is about right now. So, where we need to get to, the end result of where we need to get to at this meeting is we need to have our discussion. We're going to have a public comment. And then we need to vote on what do we do with this treatment.
We're talking about treatment.
That's right. We're talking about treatment. Right. I mean, we'll talk about grass carp, but I mean, we're already.
That's what I'm saying. The other canals, yeah, possibly.
Well, his plan doesn't call for treatment of Duck Lake other than the little area that I circled on your map there, which is under the Chance Alamere Bridge. That, you know,
also
no Duck Lake at all.
Keep in mind that this here proposal that Doug gave us, he's just going out there doing the survey and he's saying where the weeds are and which are the worst. That does not mean that we have to have him treat every single one of these items. We can say.
So we can make some adjustments.
Yes.
Oh, definitely. We always make adjustments. Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So at the end of the day, what we need to do, too bad you don't have a color one because the color really is what you need. But if you want, you can slide over here, or if everybody wants to gather around, I have my computer, Phyllis has hers. So you already did. So I think what we need to do is that we need to first have have a really good discussion about the survey, right? And so I'll tell you what I think about this. So I'll go ahead and I'll start it out. Is that I am seeing a trend in the Bell Canal and the north part of the Grand Canal that it seems to be getting worse every year we go, right?
Yes.
And we're talking that survey was done. Doug did that part of the survey. He did them in 3 different times, but I think this part was done about a month ago, right? So we're talking before it got warmer, all of this, and so when I see that, I go, why, you know, what is going on with that, right? I mean, and I get it, that goes into the water test and it goes into a myriad of things, right? But sticking with this is, if we don't do anything to those areas, then what is it going to look like in 3 months? What is it going to look like next year? Because we wouldn't do any, we wouldn't even consider another treatment until next year at this time. So, and how does that affect the recreation in the waterways, the boating, the fishing, and what the residents want our waterways to be, right? You know, we don't want to let the thing turn into any kind of a swamp. So where do we go from here, right? So when I look at the belt, at the whole map, the areas that caught for my biggest concern would be Menard with that insane parrot feather, and the Bell Canals and the northern part of the Grand Canal, but I'm not as concerned with the north part north of the golf cart bridge. Right. So, because it kind of comes up to what you said, you know, your question was, well, hey, you know, all that pennywort that's up there, is that, you know, coming down? So I look at that and I go, well, okay, our budget for the waterways for this year is $55,000. That's what we have. To do everything that Doug suggested would be 63,000 and some change-ish. Right? So I don't know how you guys feel about recommending to the city to spend more than what we budgeted for. But I'm not a real big, you know, supporter of that decision. You know, I mean, but we will do what all 7 of us think we should do. So, but there are areas that if we don't do anything, then it's really, really going to get bad. Okay, so we're in the situation that we're in right now in 2021, okay? The reason why I say the north part of the Grand Canal is if we have Doug go in there and do that, well, what are we gaining from that? Nobody boats up there. I mean, in the north part of the Grand Canal, it's all pennywort. It is a disaster on many levels, right? And pennywort is probably the least of those worries right now. And so I go, well, it would be doing one, you know, a couple of things. One, we would be putting more herbicides in the water when we're not going to get any kind of, you know, real relief of anything, right? Other than just getting rid of the pennywort. And 2, we could also save some money by not doing anything north of that golf cart. And I know you're a big golfer, so I know you know what I'm talking about with that disaster in that area. So if we kind of just mark that off, then that's a way that we can get that 63 down a little bit closer to where our budget is. Yeah, exactly. You know, but the other areas, you know, and here's another area. I know we have some folks we have an advisory board member who lives on Bass Canal, and I know we have folks for public comment on the Bass Canal. So I'll talk about that. My opinion, okay, is you have the entrance. If you want to come see this?
No, I've seen it.
You've seen it? Okay. So the entrance, Hecox Hollow is what it's called, right? So as it's coming in from Duck Lake, that whole area all the way almost over to where you make the turn into Bass itself, we're talking between a 50 and 100% coverage of weeds right now, right? That's crazy. I mean, it's going to get to the point where no one's going to be able to get in and out of that. I would say even with, you know, a canoe, a kayak, you know, something like that. I mean, it's just going to become ridiculous. If you look at the survey for Bass Canal itself, it's got a lot of blues and a lot of light greens. It doesn't look very serious, right?
I don't see it being serious to me, I think.
Right, but so again, with everything that needs to, with trying to take care of the entire system, trying to take care of what the residents' needs are and things like that. So I think we should have a discussion about that. Fishhook Canal. Fishhook Canal is, we all know, disaster with pennywort, right? Yeah, every single year it's a disaster with pennywort. It also is the only thoroughfare between both sides of the waterway system, right? Tons of boat traffic, and not just boats, but the kayaks, you know, stand-up paddleboards. That's right, vessels, right? And I think, again, we have a responsibility for those who want to recreate in the waterways is to keep that as clear as possible, right? With that said, also, there's some other canals, some of the, you know, the Blue Heron Bayou, which Greg lives on Blue Heron Bayou, and Otter Alley, and I forgot the other one. But those canals are very, very highly, you know, full of the weeds already, right? And you know, so I think what we have to do is we have to go, okay, well, if we're going to forward this to the city and recommend that we do all of the areas, then what are we asking the city to do? We're asking the city to expend $63,000 and change, right? We'll just say $64,000. So asking them to expend $9,000 above what was approved by city council for our budget. So we're talking going $9,000 above that. Okay, so there you go. I open up the floor. What do you guys have to say about that?
When was the budget approved?
This was approved early 2021 for 2021 and 2022. So, and it's 55 a year. And so far, the only thing that we've expended any money on is doing the survey and other things with Northwest Aquatic Ecosystem. So what we've expended so far is already in this survey. Yeah.
Okay. So is priority going to be appearance or health of the waterways?
Good question.
Wow.
Well, I think they're the same.
Not really.
Appearance and health. If you don't have a healthy one, your appearance is not going to be good.
I mean, what I'm saying is we have some unsightly weeds that are a nuisance, but do they affect the health of the water?
So are you talking, what are you talking about? Are you talking about pennywort? Okay, I can get behind that. Yeah, absolutely. The pennywort. And what other, is that the only weed? Or are you talking about
Pretty
others?
much, because you know, a lot of these underwater weeds, I don't really understand the submersibles. I don't understand as well. I know some of them are pretty bad for the health of the waterway. So, because to me, and I might be wrong, but the sole objective, long-term goal, eternity, whatever you want to call it, from what I had originally understood years ago, this used to be one of the premier bass fishing lakes. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So, somewhere along the line, the health of this lake declined so much that we lost that. And from what I understood is you had tons of fishermen coming here in tournaments and everything else because of the bass fishing.
That's right.
So the priority, it's a dual priority actually, because obviously we need to promote water sports, the boating itself. But at the same time, we need to bring the health of the waterways back so that we can, because you can't even really stock bass at this point and expect them to live.
You can restock the bass.
That's expensive.
Well, the problem is that in order for the bass to survive here without being eaten by the perch, the perch is out of control, and it would cost too much to purchase bass the size that is needed, because we've checked this out. I mean, the cost.
What I'm getting at is what caused that reversal? Why are the yellow perch so dominant?
because
think
someone
it
dumped
was
them in
pointed
there.
out by Fish and Wildlife was back, what was it, 1998 or something? Somebody illegally dumped some yellow perch, and yellow perch are voracious eaters. And from that point, the gentleman from Fish and Wildlife said, bass, perch, bass, perch, bass, perch.
Because they eat the babies. The perch eat the baby bass.
You know, I hear you say, I've heard this terminology before. I've been fishing bass for 30 years. I've been tournament fishing for bass for 10 years. And I fished lakes that are loaded with perch. And you got some of the biggest bass in the world in there. Well, and I'm telling you, perch are not going to eat the bass. It's like saying, this is what it's like saying, the zebra's going to eat the lions. You know, because that's what you're saying.
But I don't think bigger bass eats perch.
Okay, but wait. Okay, so let's get back on track. I hear what you're saying, right? So we're going to stick with this. And
so to me, the penny wart, my opinion is I think a lot of the penny wart we can actually selectively hand harvest to keep the budget down, and I mean selectively. But I think weed-wise budget, we need to address the most toxic weeds to quality of the water.
yeah,
That's my opinion.
completely agree with you.
That's where the money needs to be spent.
So with that said, Grant, on the pennywort, I should say corporation, right? Could you think we could get in there so that we could cut down on the pennywort treatment? Do you think we could get in there and do some management in fish hook and maybe the bell entrance and the bass entrance? Because bass has pennywort in that disaster too.
It's not growing really well though. It's almost like it's brown. It's not like it's really growing.
Well, but we could get it out so it doesn't go.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is it's not like it is in the Grand Canal. Grand Canal with all
Grand Canal. It's
Yeah,
but is that something, Grant, that you think we could, or do you think the corporation, we could do a working party, go out and ask for as many volunteers as possible? Because we know how heavy that stuff is. And maybe if we have a good turnaround of people, I don't know, what are you guys' thoughts when it comes to that?
In the connecting canal, fish hook, you could probably snag and tow a bunch of the pennywort out to the Grand Canal, but you must have a north wind.
Yeah.
And then it'll blow it down to the spillway and out to the marina.
Now, could we maybe get in there, you know, with, you know, your handy dandy machete or anything else that we could find, some pitchforks and whatnot, and get in there? And I know that it would be a time consuming project, but to get in there and concentrate on the areas where that pennywort is going to become a navigational issue. Instead of trying to eradicate the whole thing, I don't think that's what we're saying, but, you know, to make it less of a navigation hazard, because right now I would say it's probably pretty borderline that.
What I've recently done is I've backed my little 14-foot up.
Yeah.
And I've thrown out 2 grappling hooks, those big, massive, and I've towed that out to the Grand Canal. I got a lot of plazas. I've actually had coffee brought out to me.
Nice.
And with the grappling hook, it hooks most of it, but it leaves something on the beach so that there's something still left there for the fish.
Yes.
Exactly.
But it clears the navigation.
Yeah. Well, you know, and actually, I think that that's something to think about is, I don't know that I've heard any of this when we're talking about getting, you know, with the pennywort is eradicating the waterway system of the pennywort, because it definitely serves its purpose. That's right. Well, so then that also kind of goes to my point with if we have that pennywort treated now, we're getting rid of it. We're killing it, right?
Yeah, but you've already got Dutch using it and everything else.
No, but that's what I'm saying. So if we go in and the summer will not be an easy way to, easy time to do it. So we would definitely need a lot of volunteers and not same old, right? To get out there and get that pennywort instead of having that treated with herbicides. So a couple of things with that. One, less costly. Two, less herbicides in the water, right? And we are keeping that good habitat and also filtration, the roots of it, doing its filtration and whatnot of the water. But, at the end of the day, we would have to have the corporation who, does the working parties, we'd have to have the buy-in by the corporation to do that. So that's the reason why I'm asking you guys if that's something you think we could do.
If it's just a matter of throwing out the hooks and your bag and trying it down, and that's not real labor intensive.
You say you drag it down to the Grand Canal. About 2 years ago when we had huge masses breaking off and we were going out and pulling them, you pulled them. Well, there was several that Bruce and Lisa Bach and I went out and we didn't take them to the Grand Canal because it was too far, but underneath the bridges where it was shallow enough, we pushed it up under there so it could just dry out there off of the water. So, there might be places where you have access to a bank where you wouldn't have to drag it all the way to the Grand Canal.
Greg, do you have anything to add to this?
Oh yeah, personally, in my opinion, I think actually spraying the pennywort has horrible optics. I see the guy, and I'm not an anti-spray kind of guy, anti-herbicide kind of guy, but I just think that drums up a lot of emotion in people, I guess you could say. And yeah, I'd love to help harvest if my schedule allows, and I think that's a great idea to do that with the pennywort. As far as the submerged weeds, I think we should think a little bit about the recreational people on the kayakers, paddleboarders. I'd like to see it clear for them, because if somebody fell in and they're not wearing a life preserver, we know what can happen if they get tangled in those weeds.
It has happened.
I know. That's
yeah.
So Greg, when you were talking about the pennywort, you're talking about because that is sprayed topically, right?
Yeah, you see a boat out there and just tons of spray going onto it, then they die. It looks ugly, but
right.
Yeah, I think personally, I think it could be harvested. But another thing about that, towing it down to the weir, if we don't have that outflow, it's just going to sit there and blow back eventually.
Well,
it blows to Steve's and he takes care of it.
I'll ask Maria to get out there. She loves to do that. Well, so does anybody else need to have any further discussion? Well, let me ask you this. Is there any of us who feel that there shouldn't be any treatment of the waterways anywhere?
No, it needs to be treated. It's got to be. We don't control it to a point.
Okay.
We're going to have a marsh, not a water.
I used to feel that way. I don't like herbicides. I don't use herbicides in my own lawn. I use man-made products. I don't use anything like that. I don't like herbicide. I don't think it's good for it. But on the other hand, things do get out of control here, just from people I've talked to. I haven't lived here that long. I lived here since March of 2019. So I haven't seen this area when it's been terrible. I haven't seen it. I don't know what it looks like when it's like that. But I have talked to people that said it was a terrific lake, even though it was grown over. It was great fishing. And long story short, I'm realizing, oh yeah, we do need to do some herbicide, but I'd like to minimize it as much as possible. just as much as, and do more harvesting.
Everybody wants that. They really do. Nobody wants to just use all the side.
Yeah.
But there are options.
John?
Well, the unfortunate thing is Joe's kind of changing my mind about something.
I know, right?
You know, as far as the penny ward goes,
It's
at
an
one
eyesore.
point thought, well, we need pristine water shore to shore. But if we could, I thought Grant's idea, towing it down to the spillway, I'll move it there right beside you.
Whatever I can help.
And, but yeah, if we can control some of the penny ward that way, hey, I'm all for it. You know, some of the noxious underwater
Those
gas.
Those would be treated.
Yeah, so, yeah, here I am kind of going over on Joe's bandwagon. Never thought of that.
Well, but see, that for me, I mean, and I said that, you know, from the beginning, you know, being on the waterways, is that I'm not, you know, 100% supporter of let's just go throw herbicides in water. And I personally, everybody who's been part of the advisory board and even in the corporation that I've talked to, nobody wants to do that. But I kind of think, I don't want to get off topic, but I kind of think that there is that perception that that is what the advisory board wants, that the advisory board is only concerned about getting the waterways completely clean and eradicate. And I'm going on record, as far as I'm concerned, on Zoom and in the minutes, that that is not what I feel on any level. I think that we have to approach it in a methodical way and do what is responsible. I mean, very clearly, these waterways were man-made, right? This is not a natural thing. They were man-made, and we all moved here as residents. Some of us, well, actually, all of us live on the waterways, the advisory board members. And we live there because we love it, I'm sure. And we love to boat and we love to recreate and all of that. So yes, we do see what needs to, we see the water and we know that we need to take care of it. The other aspect of that is that I think that's what we should be doing as an advisory board is what is in the best interest of the waterways, not what is in the best interest of this person or that person or some political swing one way or the other, or if somebody's out doing some picketing somewhere. Me personally, don't care about any of that. I care about what the waterways need to be as I don't want to say clean, but as healthy, thank you, as healthy as possible for everybody, whether you recreate in them or you live next to them and you love your view, okay? So that's how I feel about it. So where are we with this is the fact that I'm in a bit of a conundrum with this because of the cost in order to do the whole project versus what our budget is. Now, I will take responsibility on that because I'm the one who presented the budget to council, and I was going off of what we had previously spent, you know, and we were anywhere between $50,000 and $52,000. So I felt 55, you know, and also maybe throw in a buoy here, a buoy there, you know, we could, you know, make it even better. So I was really taken aback when I got this, and we're talking $64,000. Yes, who knew, right? So that is where I have a little bit of a problem with doing that. And I guess that's for me, the two main reasons on why I'm trying to figure out what areas should we not do. One, because we're talking about recommending to the city the expenditure of our money, the taxpayers' money. And also the more herbicides we put in the water, well, what is that doing overall to the biomass and this and that, and then, you know, just the overall water quality. I mean, everything you know, everything we do in the water is going to have a cause and effect. And that's where I think we really need to be very responsible. So, John, go right ahead.
Well, I just Grant down Phyllis goes
Everyone.
but yeah, is it feasible for us to go through these canals and we don't have to go bank to bank? With Catherine hooks, the and drag stuff. Do you think it's feasible?
This place was man-made. We've got a lot of different usage of the water. And I think it's our job to manage and find a balance.
Yeah.
And this is not easy because, you know, all fishing, you know, precludes other things. And if it's all for boating, that precludes fishing. And you have to find a balance and not everyone's going to be happy. And so, I don't like the idea of dumping a lot of chemicals in the water either. It should be like a last resort, spot treating. And harvesting would be a good thing, you know, spot areas for navigation and stuff like that.
I think that definitely, again, that goes back and why I really wanted to spend some time on that harvesting topic, because I figured it would come up as we're talking about this and how, you know, the two go hand in hand. And I think we're kind of all on the same sheet of music. So,
is it feasible with the books? And to your point, yes.
Are you talking about the penny wart, or are you talking about other things?
The penny wart.
Penny
just
wart.
the
Okay.
penny wart.
Just the penny wart.
Is getting the centers of the canals open for canoes, kayaks, boats, not going bank to bank, just penny wart down the middle. I know it might be difficult on Grand Canal, but the Bell Canals, the Fisher Canals, is it feasible for us to take the workboat out, pull the graphing hooks behind it, and drag that stuff south instead of treating the penny?
Yeah, it's possible.
Okay.
Okay.
Phyllis?
Well, it all sounds wonderful just going down the strip of that and clearing it. That's great. You are opening up access, you are doing less chemicals, but on the sides where people have their boats and their docks, what good is that going to do them if they can't get them away from their docks?
Well,
Like I just said, I would rake it, break it up.
Well, that's, you know, that's the problem. It's this, we're creating the same problem by doing this as what we have with the tree limb removals, the ice storm removals. How many calls have we got? When are you going to come clear our trees from us? You know, it's like, I get it. Believe me, I've been out there on those work parties. I know. It's like, but they expect us to.
that's the problem.
And, you know, and then when you say it's their responsibility, well, you know, some of the people are not physically able to do it. And you have to take that in consideration. And they don't have the money to pay someone to do it. And it is the city's responsibility to maintain the waterways.
The city's responsibility.
It is not our total responsibility. Us to assist, yes, but it has now become our responsibility to take care of those trees, to take care of the penny wart and everything. And that you're just doing it more. You're just adding more on to us who cannot physically do it 5 days a week. And that's what it's going to take.
Well, okay, I know, but I think all that we were talking about
was doing the harvesting for the penny wart.
Yeah, but I mean, it in a very small way, not a large
Selective
way.
harvest.
Yeah. And I can tell you this, I've been up and down the Grand Canal Oh, when was the last time I went down the Grand Canal? 2 weeks ago. And once you get north of the Ocean Lakeway Bridge, then there is definitely more that is coming out. And the more you go north, then it becomes disaster zone, right? But south of that, none of that Pennywort is any bit of a navigation nuisance, right? And that's the reason on why I said, well, could we go in, right? You know, and get that area, that swath of Pennywort, you know, that's when it's starting to come out, go get it, you know. And I hear what you're saying. It would be an ongoing thing, right?
It would, well, and you know, that would be fine. But again, it's like, we're just doing this, you know, here's the canals and we're just doing this strip down here.
Yeah.
Here's their boat over here. We're putting in all this effort to get this clear so people can use it when they can't get their boats out.
Mm-hmm.
And so who are they going to call? Because, well, you guys did this, why didn't you do more?
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be calling us saying, come do this for us.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point.
Yeah, I understand. I've never heard of that before, where there was a committee that was responsible for taking care of people's weeds around their dock.
Well,
never heard of that.
Well, there isn't, but
No,
that doesn't
isn't.
mean they don't expect it.
Right. And the perception, right?
Yes.
And I think that goes to, you know, just the many, many years of some very amazing citizens, right? And not just the ones that are sitting up here, but two that are just sitting in the public right now for comment, who have for years and years put all this time and energy into these waterways to make the waterways great for everyone. And I think that, you know, it's me, right? The residents, you have a responsibility. You know, the selfishness of that you live on the water and you rely on someone else to take care of your little 60-ish plus feet of waterway. I mean, personally, I think that's very selfish. You know, that if you can't get out there and do that, you can't. I'm physically, no, come on, dude. I mean, but you know, that you're physically unable to do it. Why then, you know, somebody call. I have told people who have said this to me, you know, that they have a lot of weeds around there. I said, look, I have two of the corporation rakes in my place. You let me know when it gets bad and I will come and take care of it, right? Not on any kind of wearing a hat as a corporation person. I mean, as an advisory board member, or even just being a general member of the corporation. I would just go over there because those people are elderly and I know I can see them and that they can't do it, right? And I get that. But I mean, overall, throughout the whole waterway system, I mean, I see people who have some pretty pristine yards, and I see them out there taking care of their yard. And in my opinion, you take care of your yard, you can take care of what's in front of your property on your, you know. Now, if the residents don't agree with that, then the residents they can come here and voice their opinion here. And my response to that really and truly overall is going to be, well, guess what? You have elected officials. You can go and say that to the city, that the city needs to expend thousands upon thousands of dollars to either get somebody to come in and harvest the weeds, or the city should put a lot more money into doing herbicide treatments, right? Whatever the case may be, but I mean, that's just kind of, you know, how I feel about that, right? I don't know.
It's a catch.
But that wasn't, I get it, that we probably just don't agree on that, right?
Well, no, it's just that I think we're just opening up.
Well, and I'm sorry, Pam, but
You know,
well, I communicate a lot with Kevin Sheila and Brandon LaFontaine. I've been a big supporter of Ocean Shores Care.
Okay.
And I have spoke with Brandon and I have spoke with Kevin. They both been over at my house. And you can't believe with the volunteer work that they have done, how abusive people are to them. Why haven't you got my lot cleaned out yet? Why haven't you done this? Why haven't you got load of wood you said you're gonna bring me. And I think Phyllis has a very good point, is that people in the city, you have a great group of volunteers in the city willing to give up money, time to help people, but you've got a large contingency that expect it.
Okay. So when it comes to the penny ward, are you saying that we should have that treated, or what do you think we should do?
We need to look at the worst parts. I mean, it's really no different than what we have done before in the past.
That's right. That's right.
I mean, it's like we do selective spraying. We do not spray everywhere. And then there in front of your place going in, you know, there has been manual removal of it before, and other places that I don't remember, but I know that they've been done. I mean, so no, I'm not saying spraying herbicides is not going to be the total solution like it had been in the past, but for the corporation taking over the last, what, 6 years, 7 years of deciding where treatment was going to be done. It's not just, this is what he says, we're going to do it. We go, no, we're not going to do that this year.
Right.
You know, and I think it's so bad this year is because we got such a late treatment last year, and we did not have a follow-up evaluation to treat it again that we usually do.
COVID.
No, it was simply because it was too late.
Phyllis, I think we should just go back to what we were put on this earth to do, and that is we were to keep the waterways navigable and as safe as possible. We're not going to, because we're out mowing a parking strip, then come up and mow your lawn for you, okay? You got the stuff around your yard or around your dock or whatever, and you can't get your boat out, get rid of your boat.
Or clear up around your dock.
Yeah.
Well, it's just like the, you know, the call, you know, of the dock. I have family coming. I want to get my platoon boat out. Will you come clear this? I mean, it's like.
Okay, all right.
I mean, you know, this is what I'm saying.
So I hear you, but so where this even kind of started coming from was because the penny ward, man, my computer battery just went dead. Wonderful. So now I have none of the figures. I'm going to have to look at yours. But the penny ward was, could save us money, right? And as we all have talked about, not just save us the money, but also by doing less treatment. So what I wanted to say is that we still, right now, as far as the agenda is concerned, we're in the Fresh Waterways Advisory Board members discussion. The next thing we have is public comment. Would you guys like to go to public comment so we can hear what they have to say? And then after that, yeah. All righty. So thank you very much, Sarah. I appreciate that. So we're going to go ahead and go to public comment. Now this is for those, this is strictly about the survey, okay? If you have something else to talk about the fresh waterways, please wait until the next public comment. This is strictly about the survey and treatment. Okay?
The survey.
What we've just been talking about.
Doug Dorling survey.
The Doug Dorling survey and what we've been discussing about the treatment.
Well, you know, we have a multifaceted problem. You know, talking about the penny ward. That only came in about 3 years ago. Now it's so bad, it's only going to get worse. And already on Fishhook, it's already halfway across the canal, right by Grant's place. So Grant, I saw him pulling a massive mass out last year on his with his 14-footer, taking it out towards the outfall. So that's one of the aspects that's been a recent thing. This is a recent problem, and it's only going to get worse. I mean, if we don't do something, knowing how difficult it is to manage, that's the issue. Like Steve was recommending doing it in the wintertime when it's in a lesser state, it'd probably be an easier task. But that's one thing. The other thing is shallowness. I ran over a log in the fish hook about 3 days ago, which happens every year, and it's not even that shallow yet. We've got quite a bit of water level still. So wait till it goes down another foot, and then we got a real problem. And as far as treating the weeds, you know, we had to harvest years ago, and we harvested so they could swim for the triathlon. We harvested so they could go through the interconnector, the fish hook, so they could go through the bell canals. We got over to the south portion, entrance to the bell canal. We were completely dead stop. It was like a total mass. So we did all those areas. We pulled out a lot of bags. I had a winch. We pulled the bags up on the land. We did all this stuff. That's then. Now it's now. And frankly, I think the city has taken advantage of us all these years, and they need to change that. They need to come up with a way that they can be involved, not the volunteers.
Okay.
The reason is for that is because the volunteers that you see here are all retired. No one is working is going to be volunteering, except on maybe 1 or 2 Saturdays. Okay, but your exception. We all love the waterways. That's why we're here. And I can't get my rowing shell out in the Bass Canal. It's still got a lot of junk in there. So I want to see that taken out. I'll go do it myself. I've been doing that every year. You know, it hasn't been a few years since we've been down the total Bass Canal. So anyway, it's a really complex thing. No one wants to use herbicides. They never did. But we burned up our motor going to Chinook Park from the Bass Canal many years ago. It was so bad that Lee Schuster overheated his motor when he was trying to help us when we were harvesting. So it's just, you know, it's one of those things that if we let the weeds get any worse, we're going to be back to the same old thing. And we had a person drown on the Bass Canal years ago because of the weeds. So we know that we have to control it. But I want the city. You got a $55,000 budget. That's peanuts. That should be $550,000 a year if it's necessary. We need improvements. We need to clean out the bottom, however you want to call that, restoration. And I'm for all of you guys. I really appreciate you guys doing this. And I was part of this before. And I just don't see how we're going to get through this without the city becoming more knowledgeable, getting out there, looking at the waterways. You know, I've been over every square inch of this waterway, all over the place. I get out a lot. So I know what you're talking about. And I think personally, the pennywort is a problem in the fish hook pretty bad. But in a lot of areas, it's really not affecting the navigation, but it's affecting the people that have their party boats and they're just completely grown in. I've seen them, they're completely grown in with pennywort. So there are issues like that as well. But we can't be doing all their work. You know, I'm sorry. Just when we were doing the harvesting, we got people that didn't even live here to come and volunteer because I couldn't get anybody else. We're out in the rain doing all that stuff. And you know, it's got to the point now where you guys, you know, look at Grant, he's getting up there. How much longer is he going to be able to take charge of all this equipment?
He's just the captain now. That's all he is.
All we're asking the city to do is to step up and do their share, and don't just count on the volunteers to do it all. You guys are setting some good precedents here. You should be advising them. Let's get them, okay, we're going to come up with the money. We're going to get the guys to do this job. Tell us how to do it. How does the city want, you know, how do people want it to be taken care of? That's kind of what I'm seeing.
Okay. But anything specific on the treatment of the waterways?
I don't.
Well, on the Bass Canal, there are some iller deer right now in the shallow areas. You've seen it.
Yeah, no, it's there.
But you know that it's not really bad, so it's not a big deal. But
like I said before, the entrance coming into it is, and according to Doug's survey, is almost 60, 70 to 100% full coverage. So it's only going to get worse if nothing is done.
Exactly. And knowing when you have a propeller-driven boat, like you have, you've got weeds, issues that put your boats out of service. I mean, you're very much concerned about this. And so, you know, nowadays, when we came here 21 years ago, this many party boats, now we have well over 100. And all the new kayakers, look at the kayaks are being sold even at Ace Hardware now. So, and you know, they're selling stand-up paddle boards. People want to use the waterways and we need to let them use it. But, you know, we have to balance it. You know, nobody wants to use the herbicides. You know, you're going to have a lot of pushback on that. You know, that's going to happen. So.
Okay, thank you. Yes, sir.
No comment.
No comment on that. All right. How about online? Is there anybody?
Let me get.
Thank you. I know, I feel bad.
Don Williams, do you have public comment?
Well, I didn't sign up, but can you hear me?
Yes.
I sort of been listening. It's hard to hear the whole situation as was discussed earlier, but one of the topics was I think the Mr. Darling's estimate was 9,000 more. I'm not sure what the number was.
Yes.
If that's the case, I mean, if that's an issue, I would go for it with the city. I'm looking at the budget right now. This is Nick's right there for his department. It's number 438, storm drain. And as I see it, there's $219,400 in it for what's called professional services. And I think your 55,000 is buried in that someplace. I'm not really sure. But somehow out of that $219,000, they can find you $6,000. So if you're going to go for what he's recommending, I would go to the council and with the help of people, maybe be able to get that extra $6,000. Now on the problems, the storm drains have been an orphan for many, many years. I can remember years at Grantville too, where there was essentially no money in this utility fund for doing that kind of work. And somehow they were able to find it. At least now there's $110,000 budgeted. But I just think one of the things I want to say one more thing about the Bass Canal. A long time ago, there was a lot of problems with circulation in that canal, and there was a proposal at one time to pump water out of the lake with the pumps and put it in the head into that canal to make the canal flow. And that never went anywhere. But I'm just thinking that maybe when Nick does his stormwater management plan, that might be something to think about as a possibility. And that brings up my last topic, and that is a lot of the problems you're talking about here should be highlighted by doing that stormwater management plan as soon as possible, because everything you're talking about, I think, is in that plan, including the dredging and other things. It isn't just the drainage of the system, the city into that canal. It's the entire fresh waterway system. So I think you should be encouraging Nick to move ahead with that stormwater management plan. And there's also an integrated vegetation plan. Those are both budgeted in this fiscal year. And now in this biennium, and we're now, I think 25% through the biennium. So you might want to see what Nick can do about getting some of those things going and whether that might be a basis to start a better discussion. And I agree, a lot more money has to go in. And that's about what I can say. It's $55,000 is just insufficient. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Okay.
David Lynn.
Say again.
David Lynn.
Oh, Mr. Lynn?
Yes, I'm here. Well, one of the things I've been thinking about, the health of the waterway is dependent upon the shoreline protection. And I was wondering, as you're out doing your work and monitoring things on the waterways, there have been a few incidents that I'm aware of where people have violated the requirements of the shoreline master plan. And if discovered, they have to replant and replace with the proper vegetation. But obviously, if you lose some significant vegetation or even trees because of some illegal clearing, it's hard to make that up with some new plantings. And is that something that you look for or that you observe happening? And report on to try to get some of that stopped? That might help with any erosion that would occur from people doing illegal clearing in the shoreline. And then also, when you're out and about, how do you apply the requirements of the shoreline master plan when you have some cleanup to do? Is it a difficult thing to avoid when you've got, let's say, a tree down or some other debris? I was just curious as to how you're interacting with the shoreline master plan and anything that you can do there to help with that aspect of maintaining the healthy, trying to maintain a healthy waterway. That's all I just wanted to ask that.
Okay, well, on your first, the first part, I would say that I think, I know as far as I'm concerned, I have seen people doing some clearing that they probably should think twice about. However, you know, at the end of the day, I don't believe that the corporation members or the advisory board or in any sense, the police in that sense, should we be going around and figuring out what people are or are not doing? So as far as I'm concerned, I mean, I've talked with a couple of people who I know who have done it, and I've given them some advice on how they should do the plantings and how they should maintain. And some people like the reeds, some people don't like the reeds, but the benefit that the reeds provide and things like that. So if I know them, I talk to them on a one-on-one. That's as far as I'm concerned. I don't know about any of the other advisory board members. No.
I wouldn't address them.
Yeah.
I would.
Yeah. As far as, yeah. If we take out on the second issue, well, actually this is much more for a corporation and when we're dealing with trees. Do you want to take that, Phyllis, and interacting with the city and trees? Or?
Well, we do have guidelines on taking out trees. We have to have a permit to do it, which we have one that we get every 5 years, 3 years, can't remember. I'd have to look it up. And under that, we have guidelines. We do not remove any stumps. If the tree is large, we stake it up against the bank for erosion problems. And they have to be dangerous, causing navigation problems. And
we also coordinate with the city.
We coordinate with the city, we give them the location of the trees. The homeowners, property owners are notified so that they can have a say-so in whether the trees actually come down. And it's,
okay.
It is.
Cosmetics.
No, we only take out trees that are potential hazards of falling. And we have lots of trees that people want us to take out that we refuse to take out.
Okay. All right. I hope that answered your question, Mr. Lynn. Is there anybody else online? Okay. All right. So that will end the public comment for the aquatic weed survey treatment plan. So now it's back to us. What way are we going to move forward? I heard what Mr. Williams had to say, and he does have a point with that. But again, I think that whatever we're going to do really needs to be unanimous.
I think, right? As you said, from the Gulf Bridge north, should be water with it.
Agree with that.
What's that?
I agree with that.
Yeah, okay.
I agree with that. We should not be doing that.
Just the ones that bad for the environment, but then the debate is, or of our group is, and I guess it's more of a corporation than the advisory board, is going back and doing swaths down through the middle of some of these canals for the kitty board only.
Okay, well, so then, does anybody else, Joe, do you have something?
You want to just take one item at a time?
Yeah, that's actually what I was going to do. I was going to do that. And so we're kind of getting prepared over here with all the maps and whatnot. Yes.
There
Oh, boy. Well, we're gonna hurry. Okay.
Oh, it's 4:15.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Okay, so what we're gonna do here is looking at the expenses. Obviously, there's expenses that we have to just pay, you know, the permits, the survey, insurance.
Oh, yes.
So that comes up to $12,000, okay? And so what we were talking about when we start talking about the individual pricing is we have the Grand Canal north of the Bell Canals, 53 acres, that's 15,900. Now that's going all the way from the Bell Canals to the most northern part of the Grand Canal, right? So unfortunately, I don't have any other numbers. If we were to just stop at the bridge, how much less that would be. But the Grand Canal going north up to the bridge, do we all agree that we should take care of that? That obviously is the boating zone, people's properties with boats. Yeah.
That north end of the Grand Canal, isn't that under works as its own separate project anyway?
Has what?
The city, that north end down there, isn't the city working on something to address that issue?
Yes, yeah.
So that's its own little separate project.
Yes.
So I think we would be safe to say.
Okay.
We're not touching it.
That's probably
okay.
Some poison would go anyway.
Now the Bell Canals, that's 33 acres, and the Bell Canals, in all 4 of the canals, there is at least 50% cover. However, the most south one is not that bad yet. Okay. But at the very ends of them, there is, right? So that, in order to do the Bell Canals, that would be 9,900. Again, populated boats, recreation, right?
How deep are the Bell Canals? I don't know anything about it.
Well, I think those were when they were done before, they were right around the 7-8-ish feet.
Depends where it is.
Yeah.
Did Doug
The entrance is deeper.
like we asked him to?
Well, he did along the shoreline.
Along the shoreline.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So we don't have most accurate. The Grand Canal we know is 10, pretty much, right in the middle, right. But the other ones. So on the Bell Canals, how does everybody feel about doing the Bell Canals?
I think it's a must. It's like there's no flow in there. If we don't do them, they're going to be shut down totally.
Okay, so we get to Bass Canal. That's 16 acres, which includes a lily pad control at the entrance, and he also includes in Bass Canal, he includes the entire entrance, right? So that whole thing, as far as Doug is concerned, is Bass Canal. So it's not like the entrance and then the main canal. That to do Bass Canal is 4,800.
See, I'm thinking if we just did the entrance, because you have an entrance does get a little.
Have you gone all the way down?
Huh?
Have you gone all the way down to see what it looks like?
You mean from the crossover all the way to the far end?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. Bob, have you gone down?
But it's.
Have you done all of Bass Canal, how it's looking?
No, I haven't done back since last fall.
Okay.
But
I was just wondering.
South end up to my property, there are weeds on the shallow areas of the side. He only went one pass down the center. That was it last year.
Okay.
So if we let that go, by the end of the summer, it's going to be pretty bad.
Yeah.
I haven't been down there all the way either. Just to look at it.
Right here.
Yeah.
So, okay, Bass Canal, Fish Hook Canal. Does everybody agree? We're not talking penny ward at this point.
So what are we saying about Bass Canal?
To do it.
The whole thing?
Yes.
I don't know.
You don't agree with doing the full Bass Canal?
No, I don't. I guess I don't. I don't mind doing the entrance of the crossover canal, but that canal looked good to me. I mean, I've been out in front of you, I've been up in your place, it didn't look that bad on the center. Or it's 2 feet or 2 and 3 feet of water.
Well, when they treated the Bass Canal, when we first had Kathy Hamilton, they used sonar in the Bass Canal. That's a slow acting chemical, so as not to put any biomass in the bottom of the canal. They used that also on the lake, but they used dicot over on the Bell Canal, where it's a fast acting chemical.
What would they use?
So the reason sonar hasn't been used in years, we're only going to use dicot, but it's a lot more expensive. It also has to be non-turbulated. You can't move it around or it loses effectiveness. So I'm just saying, if we don't treat it, it's going to be an issue.
And I hear you. You know better than I do. I just think. Anyway, last time they treated it, I had 3 schools of baby fish swimming around and they were all gone. So something happened to those fish. And it just makes me sick to know that that's going to happen again.
It's called otters.
Anyway.
There are otters out there, by the way, that eat baby fish.
No. I'm talking about schools of little baby fish. Minnows. Anyway, long story short, I mean, I guess if we got to do it, it's fine. I don't want to do it, but of course I don't want to hurt anything. Okay, I'll agree with that.
Okay.
I'll listen to Bob on that.
Fish Hook Canal. Yes. Again, not the Pennywort portion at this point. Does everybody agree to Fish Hook Canal?
Yes.
Okay. Marsh Shallows. So Marsh Shallows is, oh, you got a little bit of it right there. Marsh Shallows is that entrance into Lake Menard.
It's over at the Rachel Flag Bridge, right in there. And that is, again.
What he's talking about that.
How much is that?
That's 600.
If we don't do it, Marshall, right?
Yes.
If we don't do it, there will be no access to Lake Menard at all. At all, period.
Have you seen, I know you said that you looked at them on your computer, but have you seen, this is probably, I mean, well, there's a couple other canals that's almost completely red in Marsh Shallows in one area. That's one of them. So.
Yeah, I've seen them. I've seen the color part of it before I printed it. All right, I printed it come out very good. But yeah, I did see the color.
Okay.
And that's
an area. Bass Canal didn't look that bad to me on the photographs. Didn't look that bad. I'm going off what Bob said because he said that where it's shallow, 2 to 3 feet.
And they don't go very far into like Menard. It's kind of just that one little area.
So do we all agree on Marsh Shallows? Yes. Okay. Greg, I'm not hearing you. Are you agreeing with us so far?
Yeah. Are you there, Greg? Is he there?
Hello? Okay. All right. So Blue Heron Bayou. Blue Heron Bayou, this is the canal that would be just north of the Bell Canal system, and half of, I know you guys probably can't see, here's Blue Heron Bayou, this long one, right? The ones that are to north of that are almost already 100% covered, almost already. Blue Heron Bayou, half of Blue Heron Bayou is at the red and yellow at nearly the 100% cover. So again, when we were talking about doing that, those are areas where there's residents, there's boats, a couple of those, one of those canals, I think almost every single person on that canal has a boat. So
I'll comment on Blue Heron. I went to the boathouse and back a few times, and this was just a few days ago, and my prop was just clogged with Elodea. So I vote yay.
On Blue Heron Bayou, yeah. And I think that if all of us were to do that, and go north on the Grand Canal or in the Bell Canals, I think that's what we would really see. I mean, these canals are
this side is really much worse than the other side. So do we all agree to Blue Heron Bayou? Yes, okay. Bridges Bayou, which is the other one that, like I told you, the two that are north of that. Bridges Bayou and Ocean Winds, those combined are 2,100. Those are the two smaller ones that are by Blue Heron Bayou.
Where?
No, I'm sorry, right here. This next one here, that would be Otter Alley, Blue Bayou.
What's the name of the streets? Can you read that?
Oh, good Lord, I don't even know what the name of those streets are. This one over here, well, that's Quinault on that side, and this one right here is Macaw. I don't know.
I don't remember those really being on our radar at all before.
Well, I know last year when there was delivering of notices.
Did you do those?
We did, yeah.
You did those.
Yeah.
So it was treated last year and
Yeah.
look at it already this year.
That's right. Yeah. These were all treated as well and look nowhere near as bad.
No
so
flow.
it's just very interesting, you know, how this is working out.
Okay, that's what I didn't remember.
So
I walked through a lot of that, yes.
all right, and this one actually, I'm embarrassed. I don't know exactly which one this is. Twani's Dream. I feel bad. I don't know which one that is, but it's looking here at the ones that I know where he said to do was, Greg, you know Twani's Dream?
I don't.
It's off of the Grand Canal, I believe.
Yeah.
And it would be
Twani's Dream.
Oh.
I know it's out there because we've cleared the weeds around the sign.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's this.
Like that guy right there, which would be on.
Yeah.
That would make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's been out there to look at it other than, what's Jack saying that it is cleared? I mean,
That one's
covered.
4 acres and he has it 1,200.
But is it 50% covered or do you remember?
No.
I don't either. That's not, it's one of those little ones, I think.
Mm-hmm. It's what he labeled as shootout canal.
Yeah.
From the Grand Canal.
Offshoot.
Yeah, offshoot.
7 smaller canals, Grand Canal have historical required treatment. Each canal supported different plant distance.
I don't know the map.
It looks like it's just north of the Blue Heron entrance, if I can read this blurry map. Or no, it's Raccoon Lagoon, just north, and then the next one is Twani's Dream.
Okay, all right. So yeah, that's one of the ones that have almost the entire 100% coverage. And that one he has listed as, it must just be a little bit larger than the other ones because the other ones were listed at 3 acres for the canals and Twani's Dream is listed at 4 acres, but at 1,200.
But if I'm right, that one does not have hardly anybody living on it at all. And I don't remember seeing boats on it because when we've done our surveys looking around for water testing, I don't think there's much there really. You know, I hate
Greg, have you been in that canal much?
Nah, I usually head south.
Okay. All right, so well, what do you guys think?
Sounds like it's pretty pretty much doing what everything needs to be done.
Well, I was just, you know, Joe, I was just gonna say that this is a moot point because we're going down saying yes, yes, yes to everything. And it's
Well,
like,
not yet, because we got to, next is the penny ward.
well,
Didn't Don say that they would push to get the extra funds?
Well, that's what we could
I would,
recommend to the city, that they expend that money.
I would suggest that we send this packet to all the city councils, the mayor, Scott, everybody, and ask for an increase.
Well, so here's the thing, is this agreement, this performance service agreement has already been approved by council. So it would go to Nick Bird, the Public Works Director, and then he would have to decide on what the way forward is if it was greater than that budget. Nick, are you still on?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So if we were to say, okay, we will go with the package at 63,000 and some change, what would you have to do once you received it?
I'd have to make a hard decision. So the next council meeting that I could get stuff onto the agenda for would be June 28th. So we're talking the end of the month. And so if we wanted to wait that long, I could. I thought the objective was to, initiate treatment activities early this year so that, we minimize the biomass growth. And so ultimately what I would have to do is I would have to talk to the mayor and figure out which direction we're going to go. Are we going to reduce, levels of service in other areas? Obviously we, as pointed out, there's a number of things that we haven't expended money on yet. And so those are planned costs at this point in time. And so, maybe they will come in less than what we'd planned. So at the end of the day, if that's the recommendation, then I'll have to have a hard conversation with the mayor and figure out how we're going to proceed forward. But I'll be blunt. I'm not looking forward to waiting until the end of the month to have a conversation with the council. I might be able to squeeze it onto the agenda, but generally speaking, they don't like stuff being added to the agenda after the agenda review. So I don't know. It would be a conversation that the mayor and I would have to have and figure out which direction we're going to go.
Because we have to do the parrot feather. That's a no-brainer.
And you would have to do that if it is even just a little bit over 55,000?
Generally speaking, no. I mean, the service contract has been authorized. The scope of 110,000 was the framework that I believe was authorized over the 2-year period. And so, obviously, if we went over this year, then we'd have to plan on going less next year. But if you recall, kind of the same thing occurred last budget cycle, and it didn't end up well for us.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this: if we were to recommend that for the 64,000 to go ahead and do that, and then next year or between now and next year, could we then board go and to council and say, hey, next year we would like an amendment to the budget for the fresh waterways? Could we do that? So that way you're not having to take this to council.
It's doable. One thing that you have to remember is that this is funded by the stormwater fund. And so there's two things here to remember. One is it's funded by the stormwater fund. And so that is a fixed revenue stream. We don't have a variable revenue stream like we do with water or sewer. Those are growing when we have new connections, and they're service dependent, meaning the more water or sewer that's used, there's a revenue stream that's associated with that. With stormwater, it is a static revenue stream based on the square footage of the entire city of Ocean Shores. And so that number has not changed since 2012, and that number is not going to change. And so the only way to increase the revenue stream is to change the rates, which obviously, as we went through that, about 8 months ago, that wasn't a hot topic. So that's thing one. Thing two, the other thing to keep in mind is that when we talk about shoreline pennywort control, that is a cost per day of $1,800. And so it's entirely possible that that could be, 2 days, 3 days. I don't know what it takes to traverse the shoreline of all of our waterway system, but my gut feeling is that's not getting done in one day. So those are kind of my two thoughts on that.
Okay, all right. So Pam.
No, I was stretching.
Oh, okay. Well, so let me ask you this. All right, now that we've talked a whole, really way too long about this, but is there anybody who does not feel that we should just send the whole package forward and recommend that we do the whole package?
Why can't we extend the package board except the pennywort?
Okay.
And we can harvest what we can. And other than that, the city's just gonna have to help us.
Okay.
I mean, I'm sorry, we have turned into the city's lawn care.
Yeah. So do you think maybe a good idea would be to take the pennywort off, because that would be, I don't know. That's $4,000, right? So take that off.
$1,800 per day.
Yeah, no, I know. And I'm just going off of one day, but here, I'm going to say something. Is we take that off with the exception of just doing only Fishhook Canal.
For pennywort?
For pennywort. Just to get rid of the pennywort in Fishhook Canal, and then we can just figure out how to manage it in the future.
What's the word? Is Fishhook the worst for penny?
For navigation.
Other than it is the main.
Yeah, for navigation, it's the worst.
It's the worst.
For navigation. Yeah, for the navigation of it. But if we want to just take pennywort completely off, then that's where we're going to have to go to the corporation and rely on getting boats out there and getting a working party.
I don't agree with that at all.
I know you don't. So.
Yeah, it's like.
Yeah, and all that pennywort's going to settle to the bottom and rot. Where it goes right.
That is, well, our demucking is so necessary.
So
Fishhook is not even funny.
I would say that if it's as bad as you say, Fishhook Canal, let's use that as a trial this time around and get rid of all of the pennywort in Fishhook. See how soon it comes back.
Next year.
Will it be back just as thick next year again?
Yes.
Well, if we get rid of all of it, then we're racing fish habitat and duck habitat. If all of it's gone, only the last little leaf.
What do you guys think?
Yeah. What you want.
Yeah, I do. I'm willing to go out and drag some hooks behind your boat. Again, we're not here to babysit we're not here to babysit all the people who live on the canal. We make them navigable and safe.
Well,
so
my opinion is, and always have been, told this for years, that the shoreline on your property, you chose to live on the waterway. It should be your responsibility.
So yeah, I'm kind of leaning towards as far as Fishhook goes, treat whatever other than pennywort.
Well, one thing we could do is ask Doug to go through Fishhook and do the areas that are just out of control. Not necessarily take care of every single inch of the Fishhook Canal for pennywort, but the areas where it's the huge swaths of it, go in, get rid of that.
Spray the dense areas.
Exactly right. And then, but that also is there's what we have to realize is on some level of that there's a commitment that we're going to have to take care of it in the future. Yeah.
That's what
and all it's doing is add down to the, like you said, the muck at the bottom.
Okay. So how do we feel about the penny wart? Should we go ahead and say the only penny wart that we want to have him treat is large areas within Fishhook Canal, and that's it for the penny wart?
Sounds like budget-wise.
Budget-wise, that, but letting the citizens use the waterways and their watercrafts, it's not a wise thing to do. Your boats are gonna get stuck.
No, but that's what I'm saying is that he goes through and gets rid of the large areas of penny
Just
wart,
in
not
Fishhook.
just in Fishhook.
It's gonna.
But it's in like, it's, you know, there at Marsh Shallow, you have a problem with penny wart. There on the Bell Canals, you have problems with penny warts.
He didn't say anything about that area with penny wart. The only areas that he called out for penny wart was Fishhook, Bass Canal entrance, and down at the very end of Bass Canal, and the north end Grand Canal wetland site, which is that area north of the golf cart bridge.
Well, that is what is blocking Marsh Shallow.
It is?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, it is. I mean, he may not have had it broken out like that on there, but that is what is there, is penny wart. I mean, and on the Bell Canals, it's the same. I mean, it's penny wart that they're dealing with, you know.
Well, so we're gonna have to come up with, you know, I guess really and truly when it comes to this, we're gonna have to go with what the majority wants. What should we do when it comes to the penny wart? Should we ask him to control certain areas and not just go and, because one of this is shoreline penny wart control at 1,800 a day. That means he literally is going to go up and down every single area and do that.
We don't want him to do that.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But so that's why he broke it out by this, right? You know, he broke it out by only penny wart control within Fishhook Canal is 1,000, right? Penny wart control in Bass Canal, 750. And then of course the wetland site, which we already said no to.
We should preserve this, the bank to an extent, because frankly, ecologically, that's necessary. We have to have something for the.
And you gotta remember, whatever
frogs and ducks and,
whatever you're killed goes pluck.
yeah, and it all goes down to. So,
See,
and
he's
the
not even gonna
shoreline's
see
not.
Marsh Shallow on here.
No, he calls it Lake North.
Yeah, but it's, and this is in the wrong place.
Right.
I mean, it's like,
Well, so what do you guys think? Because we really got to get going. These people are probably pretty upset. Yeah, I know.
Okay, as far as penny wart control in Bass Canal, there is penny wart there, but like I say, it's not real aggressive right now. It's there.
Yeah.
Well, it didn't last year. Last year, it never got bad last year. I thought it was pretty decent. But I would personally think that'd be one we could let go. The North Grand Canal we can let go because we're not going to be
right. Yeah, we already talked.
So that's $1,200 out of the way, $750. So there's almost $2,000. Fishhook Canal sounds like we need to do it.
But do we need to do it all on the shorelines? Right?
No,
exactly. Exactly. So, and that's where my real big concern with the penny wart is because I think there's probably areas of penny wart that is good for where it is.
Yeah.
However, there's other areas that are just absolutely out of control,
so
right? So,
Then you're going to have, and his next question will be.
what are the big chunks?
How large an area do I treat? And
That's
what
right.
do I, but we don't have time for that.
No, exactly right.
I don't know if anybody could ride with them or not. Just say, oh, spray that over there, spray that over there.
No, because you have to be.
Well, what we could do is if you guys want, we can have, you know, myself and at least another advisory board member. We could sit down or talk to Doug over the phone and maybe go out and scope. Greg and I, if Greg feels like taking his boat out, we can go and scope these areas, take photos and say, hey, these are the areas that are just you know. But the $1,800 per day to go up and down the entire shoreline is, in my opinion, that's just.
You realize how expensive that could be?
Well, not only that, but again, we were also, I mean, you know, so, okay, so let's go ahead and do this, all right? We'll go ahead and vote on this is that the overall amount is $63,250, and that is with only saying penny ward, 1 day of worth of penny ward control, right?
And that brings it up to 63.
Yes, yeah, because we would add 1,800 every day he had to go over that 1 day would be another 1,800, another 1,800. So the 63,250 is only counting 1 day, right?
We may wind up shooting ourselves in the foot for next year, but I guess we have to look at the long term.
Okay.
You know, we just kick it in the ass now and then it holds to.
All right. So all those in favor of presenting this plan as proposed to the city and move forward with this treatment plan, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Greg?
Aye.
Any nays? No? Okay. So that's how we're going to go ahead and move forward with that. All right. Last thing that we have is actually, if everybody is okay with this, we really got to get moving on. Is if everybody is okay, you want to go ahead and do the election of board officers at the next meeting.
Yes.
Next meeting. Okay. So I will adjust that. And all right, is there anybody real quick? Is there anyone who wants to make further public comment on any topic of the fresh waterways? Sarah, anyone online?
No.
No?
We have.
Jim, did you have something that you wanted to say? You're good? Bob, Carol?
Thanks for your really hard work.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think you guys have got, I'm just pushing for you what I'm trying to do. I just want the city to have, take their part of it.
Well, we all do. We would all want that.
Okay. No, not all of them. No. Well,
That's okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't want to go into
with changes to the penny ward. Yeah, I guess I probably didn't say that right. Thank you.
No,
Okay.
it's okay.
So, all righty. So I'm going to go ahead. We're going to do good of the order real quick. Good of the order real quick. Joe, you have anything for good of the order? Pam? Greg?
No.
John? Grant?
We want to get rid of the perch. Why don't we put some northern pike in?
There you go, buddy. Muskie. It's a muskie. Tiger muskie.
I wrote it down. All right. Phyllis?
Let's just plant more fishing.
Okay, all right. So the next meeting will be held June 12th. Oh, I'm sorry. July. What did I mess up on? Yeah, what did I mess up on? I messed up on
July 5th is a holiday, so it would be July 12th.
July 12th. So our next meeting will be, sorry, our next meeting will be July 12th, 2021 at 2 p.m. And I adjourn this meeting. Thank you, everyone. Sorry, sir.